want to thank everyone for wearing their masks again tonight. Appreciate that. We'll call the roll, please, Christina.
Clark. Here. David. Here. Fish.
Here.
Jorgensen. Here. Cole. Here. Parliament.
Here.
Motion to approve the agenda, please.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We've got a set of briefing minutes, a special meeting, regular meeting, and another special meeting minutes. I see there was a correction that came out. Did you see that, Jack?
Yep.
Okay. Is that to your, does that work? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right, approval of the claims on page 18. Any questions on that?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and second to approve the claims. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, got that taken care of. Nothing on the consent calendar tonight? Okay, all right. So this is the time for visitors and timed items. We request you come forward now if you have something to address on the agenda or just in general. You can speak up to 5 minutes. We ask you to come up front, state your name and address, turn on the microphone, and we will be happy to listen. So whoever would like to go first?
All right, can you hear me?
Yep, go for
My
it.
name is Tom Wolstein, 201 South Augusta Avenue. I also own Brandon Pharmacy at 116 East Holly Boulevard. I have been a pharmacist for 15 years, and I've owned Brandon Pharmacy for 10 years. My wife, unfortunately, had a repetitive stress injury that they tried to fix with surgery. It gave her chronic pain, and because of this extreme chronic pain that she lives with every day, I've also been a medical cannabis advocate for about 5 years. And I saw that you had that on the agenda for at least an update on it. So I just wanted to come and really just offer you my services, if that's a way of putting it, my education. Since I have been an advocate for them for quite some time, I do know more than most pharmacists about cannabis, and I know more about cannabis than most pharmacists do. But, and I know more about drugs than most advocates. So, you know, if there's anything that comes up that you need answered, any questions, I find that misinformation is probably the biggest problem that happens with this. And so if you have any questions, you can call me personally on my cell phone, Councilman Jorgensen. You can share that with them after the meeting if you want. Also, if you have any questions that come up during this meeting, if you want to come to my office and have a private education, you can call me ahead of time and you can come there. If you want me to come do a special session for just the council people to get them educated, that is fine as well. I'm not saying I'm necessarily an expert, but I am probably a good resource to use. So I just wanted to let everyone know that I am a resource that's available to you in the future. All right, thank you.
You ready? Mark Banworth with American Legion in Brandon. Live at 617 Switchgrass Trail. We have everything put together for the Loyalty Day Parade on May 2nd. Lining up the high school at 11 o'clock. Coming down, ending end of Main Street. We usually give away bikes every year. 4 girl bikes, 4 boy bikes. Years past, we would blow up balloons. They let them pop the balloon, get their number in there, or we did Easter eggs. Decided this year we're just going to do a ticket They go to Sunshine in the morning, the weekend before, buy a ticket for $1, max of 5 per student or kid. And then we'll draw the winners of the bikes out after the parade on the PA system here on Main Street. I have the flyers all done, and I was notified that we have to go to City Council to get approval to do a raffle for the bikes. So everything else is in line for the parade. Once I get your blessing on this, I want to hang our nice little posters up all over town. It's our 55th year. Only 1 year it failed because of a blizzard. And we did do one last year, even though it was small, and a few cars going through the neighborhood, but we want to continue that on. And the next thing is, years past, we used to get the city council chambers opened up for bathrooms. So if we can get the keys for that, or allowed to do that again, so people can use the bathroom in here. On the day of the parade, May 2nd, from about 11 to probably 4. If that's something we can still do. We've done years past, and when we can get the blessing to hang these suckers up, and then when to get that key. Does someone reach out to me once that you guys decide on this at all, or?
It's farther down on the agenda, I believe. Is that
Okay.
correct?
Yep.
Yep.
The raffle is.
Yeah.
Sounds
You
good.
can, you can stay if you'd like, you don't have
Okay,
to.
no, I'll stay for it.
Okay.
Good evening, TJ Cameron, 2821 East Daybreak Circle, Brandon, South Dakota. I wanted to take the opportunity, I know that there's 3 great candidates for you to consider tonight for mayor. Although I didn't get a vote during our last meeting, I just wanted to address the council and bring a couple of things to your attention for consideration. I don't know if everybody here follows, really great news agency we happen to have here in town that I feel is very neutral and fair to all candidates. But the Brandon Valley Journal has published a number of polls in the last couple of years, and there's just a couple of things that I wanted to call out and bring to your attention for consideration when you look at what our residents are asking for. So currently there is a poll that asks, who would you like to be appointed for mayor? Now, there's about 185 responses. From what I could find, that falls in the top 6, I think, that I could see on there of number of responses, because you can go back 8 different pages. And the results are as follows. In support for TJ Cameron to be appointed to mayor is 39% of the vote, 72 votes. The next candidate behind me has 60 votes at 32%. The candidate behind him has 53 votes at 29%. So although there's not a clear majority, I lead the next candidate behind me by 7% of the poll, or 12 extra of the 185 votes. The next poll that the Brandon Valley Journal has published in the past that I'd like to bring to your attention is there was a poll when Mayor Lundberg and I both submitted for the mayoral appointment that I also wasn't given a vote at. And of that poll, which had 306 responses, which fell in the top at least 2 or 3 that I could see, because you can actually see the number of responses. If you vote in one of the polls, then it'll allow you to see it, or you hit older history, it'll allow you to see the number of votes. There was 306 votes prior to that appointment, of which I received 155 votes, or 51%. Mr. Lundberg received 128 votes, or 42%. So 9% clearance, and at 306 votes, that represents, over 3% or over 10% of our voters. That'd be 3,000 voters if we had just 10%. So if you think about the elections and you look at our previous history, fortunately, many people have come to the polls in recent years. Although I didn't get to run in the race against Mayor Lundberg because I had some health concerns that year in January, which I thought were more serious and turned out to be very non-serious, but they couldn't figure it out for a while. I just wanted to bring that to your attention regarding what the people have maybe said. Now, there has been a poll in the past against my most recent opponent in running for election, and he did beat me. He received 54% of the poll responses, and I received 46%. But other than that, I've led both of the other two of the three polls, I've led the other two polls when it comes to the mayoral appointment. And there was another poll, not too long back regarding, the fireworks vote. And all you know that I have a fireworks store, but I basically stayed out of that. I had in the past expressed that I thought we should be less strict than what was being proposed, but more strict than what a resident took into their own hands. In that poll, overwhelmingly, there was support for it, but the council voted against it. And I just really want you to think about these things, because these are what our constituents and our residents are saying. I totally understand that everybody has a close circle of friends and advisors that you speak to on probably a regular basis, but these polls have to tell you something. And I think that it's important that you take it into consideration tonight when you make your vote. Whether you support me or not, I think it's definitely important that you take that into consideration. The last thing I'd like to say is that I believe that there's a false conception that me and Tim Wakefield have some sort of bond, and whether or not this stands true or not, it's been my opinion that since the day he endorsed me for my council run, he's haunted me. And I told Tim Wakefield in person, face to face, that if he ran for mayor, I'd run against him. And I fully intended on running against him because we do not share the same amount of beliefs. Although I bought his house, it's because I posted on Facebook and said, is there anyone selling a house with these specifications? And Mr. Wakefield reached out to me confidentially prior to his resignation and said, please don't share this information, but we might consider selling our house. So I actually knew he was going to resign from the council probably before many people did here, but I respected his wishes to keep that confidential, and it ended up being the perfect house for me and my family. So regardless of what people may think, I just wanted to clear the air publicly that he's shared many opinions that I've totally disagreed with, to the point where I told him face to face that if he ran for mayor, I'd run against him. And I would have, had Mr. Lundberg not surfaced as a great candidate, and had I not had those health concerns. So I just wanted to clear the air that there's absolutely no connection with him and me when it comes to any previous beliefs. And I think he's a nice guy. And I think outside of council, he's a fair and nice person, but this was the wrong place for him. So I just wanted to address that. And if I'm wrong on the perception, so be it. But I thought it was important that I address that, an elephant in the room, if you will. Thanks.
Anyone else here to address council? All once, all twice? All right. Good. Moving on to public hearing.
Canvassing board.
So, what do we need to do for that?
Just approve the official canvas. This would approve the votes that were voted on at the election.
Move to approve.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the vote that was held last week for Ward 2. Any discussion?
Obviously, I can't vote.
Correct.
Correct.
I'm recused.
Okay, thank you. All right, all in favor? Opposed? All right, welcome back, Dave. Congratulations.
Yeah, just on one of the lines.
Just one of the lines is fine.
Unfortunately, it was a fairly low turnout this year.
Correct.
Yeah. Difficult to get folks out for just one seat. Any issues with the election, Christina, or did it go pretty smoothly?
Oh, went pretty smooth.
Okay, moving on then to old business for the mayoral appointment. And our process here is,
It's the same as it was at the last council meeting.
simple motion second and a vote by the council to appoint a person to fill that vacancy until the next general election, which will be next April. Currently, you have 3 citizens that have expressed interest in that appointment: Chuck Parsons, TJ Cameron, and Jack Parliament. We've got a couple of conflicting things here, regarding reconsiderations or motions to reconsider, specifically rule number 8 for the city council. But in looking at it, state codified law says that the council will appoint as soon as applicable. So that statute would supersede our council rule. So I think it would be appropriate for the council to, pass a motion to suspend rule number 8 until the vacant mayor's position is filled, pertaining to votes for the mayoral position. And after that, it's up to the council as to what you would like to do.
So you would like a motion to suspend rule number 8?
Correct.
I'll make a motion to suspend rule number 8.
Pertaining to the appointment of a mayor for this vacancy.
That.
What he just said, right?
Yep.
Okay. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay, discussion on that. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? All right, the rule is suspended for the indefinite future until we are able to appoint a mayor. All right, so I'm guessing we need a motion for a mayor candidate.
I make a motion for Jack Parliament for mayor.
Okay, we have motion and second for Jack Parliament for mayor. Discussion?
One thing I just want to point out that I don't think was brought up too, of all the candidates, and we have great candidates out there, we've been doing this lengthy CIP process that the city has never done before, long overdue, but it's been really a great experience and educational, and I think a benefit would be to have Jack, who's been in there from the beginning, to understand where we're at going forward. So I think that is a positive thing. And one thing that I don't think was kind of overlooked the first time around as we're going through these stages with the city.
I would just echo those sentiments. I think that there's a lot that happens in the briefing meetings and the work sessions and the CIPs and the council meetings. If this is a position that's meant to just be a temporary fill-in, I feel it would be a lot smoother with somebody that knows what's going on all topics, and then the public can decide at the end of that fill-in period. I think we're blessed to have 3 great candidates, but to me, this is just a thing that makes the most sense.
Other discussion? Well, I am still of the opinion that this is an appointment, and I feel that Jack needs to recuse himself. Is anyone up here an attorney? Dave, are you an attorney?
No.
Dana? Vicki? Jack? Tim? Myself. Our city attorney stood in front of us a couple of weeks ago and told us in no uncertain terms that she felt it was a conflict of interest. She cited some case law that is very broad and sweeping, saying that, anything that the public could see as conflict of interest needs to be deemed a conflict of interest. Now, we all know that Jack is not doing this for $3,500. Of course not. We know that. But we are not the public. And I think that for someone to vote for themselves in an appointed position is inappropriate. And if we're going to have legal counsel and staff that are experts in their field, and then we basically thumb our nose at them, what's the point of paying for these things? So I'm not an attorney. I'm going to go along with what our city attorney says, and I feel that I cannot vote for Jack because I think he should stay on council because we really need him on council. And I just think it's inappropriate.
Well, I'll have to address it. I guess I wasn't planning on addressing this, but it was inferred that there was the conflict because of the $3,500 increase in mayoral pay. And if there is anyone on the council, in the audience, in the public, when you see this, that feels that that is a conflict for me, is that even the slightest perception, I will gladly donate every penny of that to local charities. So if there's any reservations by anyone, I would think that that would alleviate that. And I would invite anyone from the public or the council to address me to my face saying that, yes, they do think that there's a possible conflict with the increase in pay, and I will make that donation gladly.
So the case law I'm going to cite is Halburn versus Dual County. Now, this is a case where a member of the council, the court said a member of council had a conflict of interest in voting where an applicant was applying for a liquor license. And her conflict was merely that she worked at another establishment down the street, and by allowing this liquor license to go through, her tips could be reduced. That's a pretty broad conflict. Jack, you're not doing it for the money, but I am looking at the broad picture, and that's where I'm coming from. Nothing against you. I would do it with anybody. I mean, I thought, if I had run, yeah. So that's where I'm coming from. But, go ahead, and we'll take a vote.
No, I was just gonna say, I respectfully disagree with you, Barb. I feel like you look at what's best for this city, and this is meant to be, there's an election less than a year from now in April. Who can seamlessly transition into that role and effectively do that? And I do feel it's Jack. I think he would make an excellent transition in there. So I guess I just don't understand where you're coming from. I think I support it. To me, it makes a logical sense.
Just one thing to add, I would like to point out that we do have two other candidates sitting in the room who can't vote for themselves.
And I just want to make sure procedurally I understand where the council's at, because we have a motion right now to appoint Jack, and then Councilmember Fish, you said something about, I think he can't vote for himself. Procedurally, we do not have a motion to have him recused. He is not recused. So the motion so you haven't made that motion. So I just want to make sure procedurally everybody understands where we're at.
I feel that way. I didn't take a vote. Okay. All right, let's take a vote. Let's call a roll.
Clark? Aye. David?
Aye.
Fish?
Nay.
Jorgensen? Hall? Parliament?
All right, motion fails. What would you like to do?
I guess I'll make a motion for Chuck Parsons for mayor.
Okay, we have a motion for Chuck Parsons. Discussion, please.
Sure. We do have three candidates that applied to be our mayor. They all talk about wanting to serve our community. What I will tell you is Chuck has served our community for over 30 years. When I started on the planning and zoning, he was the chairperson. He currently sits as the chairperson of the Development Foundation. Twice he's been the Brandon Valley Chamber President. He has sat at this table as city council, so I can't think of many other people better suited to be the mayor of Brandon than Chuck Parsons. He hasn't waited for an appointment to serve his community. He's been doing it for 30 years, so I support Chuck.
And I also support Chuck because he's, as Tim said, he's been around and has been involved. He's only been off of council a short period of time. He's been more involved in city government than any of us combined for all of those years. And so I feel that he would be a great person to run these meetings and to get things back on the road.
One other thing I would note is that if we go with one of the other candidates, with Chuck or with TJ, then we have a full council, and we don't have to labor through this again for another month or so. We get to a point where we've got 6 council members and a mayor, and come the next election, it's wide open. People can run. I don't know if any of them have intentions of running in the next election. I assume that they do. But this gets us to the point where we've got a full council. We don't have to go through this pain again, and I think that's also a benefit. So.
Any other discussion? Okay. Call the roll, Christina, please.
Clark? Nay. David?
Nay.
Fish?
Aye.
Jorgensen?
Aye.
Cole?
Aye.
Parliament?
Nay.
All right. Now what do we do? Move on.
What is rule number 8?
Rule number 8 is, regulates the reconsideration of motions. So typically, if there's a motion, a council member that votes in the majority can bring it up at the next meeting.
So we don't have anybody in the majority.
True.
So, here we are. So we move on, just move on?
If there's no other motions, like I said, I'll put this on the agenda of every regular meeting until the position is filled.
Okay. Second reading, rezoning, the original town of Brandon. Thank you, all of you, for your interest in the position. We will just continue on, I guess, as we move forward. Do we have a motion for the second reading? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so that rezones our city hall to institutional, and we're slowly going through our buildings and getting things all into institutional, okay? Okay, moving on to standing committee reports, the golf course.
This is pay app number 3. They're about halfway done. They have site number 1 and 2 done. They're doing some cleanup work. They're working pretty hard at it today again. So hopefully in 2-3 weeks they're finished with this project.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve. Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, seasonal staff.
2 seasonal staff, Carter Altoff as a community room busser dishwasher, and Isabel Trainer as a lounge beverage cart.
I'll move to approve the 2 additional people.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. going on to change order.
This is for the pool improvements project. It's a pretty minor change order, number 7. It's just to do some repair work to the existing pool. And it's for about $5,000.
We have a motion for that? Second.
You move, I'll second.
Okay, whatever. Any discussion on that?
Yes, good question. Tammy, what's this involved in, the $5,000?
This is just to repair some cracks and redo some caulking in the existing pool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what about the roof and the rest of the building?
We're still going back and forth with the contractor on that. Hopefully we get something this week and it'll be at the next council meeting for sure.
Okay, I was down there and took a pretty good look at it last week, I guess it was. And I agree, the shingles most likely need to be replaced. The trim around the building is in sad shape,
Really bad.
and that needs to be not just painted, but
Some of it will be replaced.
replaced or at least scraped and at a minimum. The doors could be repainted. I've been vocal about the blue down there, but I think blue, the blue trim to help tie that building into the other, I think would be a great asset. Just a suggestion. But I do not think that the formed concrete brick on the building itself needs any work. I don't know if power washing would do much for it, but I really can't see anything else that, I don't know of anything other technique to spruce it up any. I really don't think painting is the idea.
Yeah, we asked them to come up with some different options on that, on if they could clean the concrete or not. The painting's not a huge dollar amount. I think it's like $8,600 to do the whole building. But they do agree that there'd probably be yearly or every other year type of maintenance of touch-up paint. So,
Well, that's probably just regular maintenance that
right,
our own guys can or should be doing.
right.
Thank you.
Anything else on the motion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? I did have a report from baseball, and they're having their first tournament now in April. 55% of the teams that are coming are from out of town, over an hour and a half away. So we're hopeful that they'll spend some money here. That's most kids are going to need some kind of snacks or something when they're that far away. So they just asked me to give you folks that information. They're real pleased with their turnout for that tournament. Moving on to public safety. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Riley, we're gonna be able to get down there and patch the road before this big tournament? I would hope so.
Well, we can do something, yeah, but the hot mix line is the most.
Well, I think anything is worth it at this point. If you take a drive down through there, you're dodging potholes left and right. And if we're gonna have a big tournament like that from out of town, I'd like to see it myself, so take a look at it.
Okay, moving on to public safety.
Exciting part of the meeting.
Yeah.
The selection committee for the police chief vacancy, very happy to recommend that we appoint or promote Lieutenant Jamie Steffel to the position of police chief, effective today.
You haven't been voted on yet.
Any discussion? Any discussion?
Don't you want to hear from the potential chief?
Sure.
Most people get the applause after the speech.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Assuming the applause meant that vote's gonna go through, obviously.
Well, you never know.
well, it
Thank
depends on
you.
what you
Yeah.
say, I don't know. Okay, we'll vote first, all
Okay,
right.
well, I'll talk like it is then, but
Okay.
I'd like to thank the hiring committee
Show your face.
and, well, and I should probably take this up. Thank the hiring committee and the council themselves. It's a great honor. I really appreciate it. I do have two of the sergeants are here tonight as well, and I'd like to thank them for their help and their leadership. Obviously, you know, one man can't do this alone. It takes everybody. And along with that, obviously, I'd like to thank the community itself. You know, we wouldn't be able to effectively, you know, patrol and assist and serve the public if we didn't have their support and their input and that relationship back and forth. So it's an honor. I thank you, and we'll do our best to continue providing a high level of service to the community and all the citizens.
Thank you. All right, let's vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Congratulations, Chief, thank you. Okay. And then, following that,
Yeah.
kind of bad news.
We have a resignation of Officer Jesse Thorne. I've outlined at least a tentative timeline for the hiring process on page 36. We'd be looking at, you know, hopefully at the June 21st council meeting, having a recommendation to the council for a hiring.
Motion to approve resignation.
Second.
Have motion second to approve the resignation of Jesse Thorne. Any discussion?
Just for clarification, is this effective immediately?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, we wish him well in his future endeavors. Have a report from the fire department, and there's a raffle, is that a raffle from?
Yep, that'll come up in administration.
Okay, so we have a report from the fire department, and then we have an update on the cannabis.
Yeah, it's just an update, some information provided by the municipal league, at least on medical cannabis. As we all know, there's a lawsuit involved with the recreational cannabis amendment. So who knows about that one? Anticipating a special session of the legislature sometime this spring, early summer, because I know they've got some questions on both medical and recreational. So we'll keep you informed as to where that's at the legislature, and if the league has any other recommendations. In the meantime, we'll get a hold of CCOG, who works on our zoning ordinances, to start at least looking at or drafting some ordinance or changes to the zoning code related to medical dispensaries for cannabis.
I have a question. So, Brian, with this then, is it up to the city to put like certain ordinances, like we don't let a liquor store or a bar just go anywhere?
Correct.
But do we have to put something in place saying the same for the medical or recreational, whatever comes our way, distributions, or is it just free for all that they can sell it anywhere?
Well, if you look at our zoning code currently, I don't recall any cannabis dispensaries being a permitted use in any zoning district. So I don't necessarily think that they would be currently allowed in our city, but we cannot make accommodations for them in our zoning code. We've got to take a look at least allow them as a conditional use. And I would anticipate we would I don't see much of a difference between liquor stores and cannabis at this point in time. So I would think it'd be fairly similar regulations for us. It's a conditional use permit in a general business district or a central business district. And we do have some requirements as far as distance from schools, churches, and that kind of stuff. So I would think that would be fairly typical.
My question is, as a city, do we have to, I think we talked at the briefing meeting that it's not till what, October or end of October, November for medical? And that pretty much, there's no hiccup with that from the state, right? Like, that pretty much will probably be going through, like, so then, if somebody wants to be is it dispensary, is that what we call it? Okay, so if they want to be, right now, they can just come into Brandon and, no, Tim?
No,
Okay.
no, right now, we don't, in our zoning code, we list permitted uses in each zoning district. So, for instance, in residential, a single-family, R1, a single-family home is a permitted use. So they could just go in and get a building permit, and we issue it. If somebody wants to come into a general business district and open up a bar or an off-sale liquor, they have another step in there. It's permitted as a conditional use. It's not a permitted use. So there's a public hearing in front of planning and zoning to make sure that what they're planning is appropriate for their location. Like I said, we do have some regulations as far as location to schools and churches, because I don't necessarily think we want one, right across the street from the middle school. So if you look on page 40 of the packet, in the memo from the league, says, what can municipalities do? Limit the number of medical cannabis establishments, but you may not prohibit a dispensary. So we can't outlaw them, but we can limit the number, and we can also take a look at where they locate. So that's what we'll work with CCOG on.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have a malt beverage and wine license, we don't have a limit on those,
Correct.
but off-sale liquor, we do have a limit on those?
Off-sale and on-sale liquor, there are limits established by state statute.
They're both established, or all of them are
Yeah.
established by state.
But the malt beverage and wine, they don't place a limit as to how many we can issue,
Correct.
correct? Will they provide us guidance on what we'll be able to issue?
I hope so.
Okay. I mean, I would assume, because with beer and wine and liquor, all of that, they come back every year for us to approve them, yes? We
Correct.
review them every year, so I imagine it would be similar to that?
Correct.
Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Wolstein, since we have him here? Or we appreciate, Tom, your coming and offering your expertise on this.
All right, Tom, come on out. There was a question asked whether or not we can sell this in pharmacies.
No, pharmacies, we're busy enough, and this is an entirely different business. This is different rules, different everything. In fact, because of the legal status federally, a pharmacy would probably lose their DEA license if they had that in the store. So they could not sell it. Just to kind of add on to what you guys were saying earlier, they probably, as far as the licenses in the city go, like how many you'd want to have, you're going to have to get a license from the state, and that's going to be the harder thing. And if there's going to be two different ways. Either they don't put a limit on the number of people who can get medical licenses from the state, in which case the free market will decide, because there will be a lot of people who have medical dispensaries, and there are not that many medical customers in South Dakota. So there will quickly be people who are going out of business because there is just not enough business for that. If recreational is a whole different ballgame, but I would not anticipate that you have to worry about 10 dispensaries trying to come to Brandon, especially if it's just recreational. There's not enough business there, and with a lot of businesses, if you have the money, it's better to put it in Sioux Falls, because people in Brandon are going to go to Sioux Falls anyway, but it would still be good to have an option if it could come to fruition in Brandon, at least, that it's available. Does that make sense?
So you're saying, like, because I was the silly one that thought, well, it's medical, I just thought pharmacy, right? But so if it's a dispensary, you said it would probably be best to be medical and recreational all in one. Well, they won't be able just to justify just medical, you didn't think? I mean,
If recreational comes around, medical will quickly become a side note. That is nothing compared to recreational money. So if someone were to really, they will still have medical, they'll have it as like, a corner of their store. Usually that's taxed differently, so you do have to have separate inventory for that. But the money, if that's what their grants, what they want, is going to be all recreational. So they usually will have both. If they'll either have both or just recreational. Not generally going to be a medical by itself, because that would be hard to keep that business going. If it's only medical allowed in the state, then obviously you can make that work.
What's the policy over in Minnesota? Are we going to have some leakage over here from Minnesota?
So currently, Minnesota technically has medical. I believe it's kind of a crappy way of doing it. It's like liquid only, and there's only like 2 places in Minnesota you can get it from. It's not very friendly for what people actually need. Now, the way the law is written currently is that we can accept medical cards from any other state. Well, that would lead anybody in Minnesota who has a medical card could come here and get something, which I think would probably happen. That's one of the things they were talking about, cutting that out in the future legislation. So I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't allow that. So at least for the medical side of things, possibly, but it depends on if they leave it in or not.
How much of a moneymaker are these things? I mean, are we missing out on a big sales tax opportunity?
Medical, not very much. Medical is usually not taxed very high. That is a medicine. Pharmacies don't get taxed, or at least the medicine part. All the over-the-counter stuff is, but I mean, it's not. My pharmacy is not a big sales tax generator. So if it's medical only, no. If you want me to discuss recreational, I can tell you about a thing I was looking up today on border state, a place called Trinidad in Colorado. It is 14 miles from New Mexico. New Mexico has a 2 million person population. As comparison, we're at 5 miles from Minnesota, and Minnesota has almost 6 million people in it. That town had 8,000 residents, and they did $20 million worth of sales. Now, if you put a 10% local tax on that, you could start talking about quite a bit of tax revenue. Now, the thing is, the state already is putting like 20% tax on it, and I don't know if you're going to be limited, like they won't let you put more than 2% or something on there. But I guess if recreational did go through, I would look at taxing it, suggest that you guys tax it as high as possible and kind of lean into it, because we're sitting right next to the border, and at least until Minnesota passes it, which they're going to eventually, it might be a potential tax help.
So Tom, what about Iowa?
Iowa, I believe they are decriminalized. I don't know if they have any official program, but if you got caught with an ounce there or whatever, I think they just take it away, and I don't think they even fine you or anything. But I believe that's the way they're sitting. But that's one of the things I also think is, hey, look what they did. They put a casino right on the border, 100 feet from our border, because they want us to come give them money, and we don't get anything for that. Well, hey, let's do the other way around, and they can come buy expensive things from us and then go back home. I guess technically you're not supposed to say that because they're not supposed to cross state lines, but they can do whatever they want with it.
So is it of your opinion that instead of dragging our feet on it, that we should be promoting it? Because the reason I ask that, I think that eventually you're going to have Minnesota and Iowa get on board, and they will most likely be passing similar legislation.
Oh yeah. North Dakota just did something. They are proactively starting to do recreational, but I think it's because they don't want, they want to be able to set the laws rather than have the people set the laws. But regardless, within, 10 years, Philip Morris is going to start making boxes of, it's going to be ubiquitous across the country. So maybe not 10 years, but it's gonna happen sooner or later. It's gonna be legal in every state, the federal government's gonna start taxing it, and then, it'll drive the prices down, and then the huge windfall will kind of be less. But I would not be frightened of the future. So it's going to happen.
Again, we thank you for coming, appreciate your
No problem.
interest, and I'm sure we'll be calling again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we've got the MedStar quarterly report, is that in there?
I did not receive it.
Yeah, I thought I didn't see it in there, okay. I-90 Plaza Development Agreement on page 42.
This outlines basically the mechanics from the TIF number 5 that you approved at the last meeting. Explains how the flow-through works, that the developers are responsible for the construction of all of the improvements. The city is not liable for any of the improvements. They indemnify us. It is not considered a debt of the city, since it's a pay-as-you-go TIF district. The city could certainly terminate the agreement with proper notice if the developer were to default or walk on the project. We could terminate the project and decertify the TIF district. Really, those were the highlights. And we kind of discussed it with the TIF district number 5 at the last meeting.
So do we need we've already approved it, right?
Well, you approved the TIF district. This is just an agreement between us and the developer
Okay,
for the mechanics.
so we need a motion.
Correct.
That's a cue, thank you.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any discussion on it, members, council members?
Just a quick question for our attorney. Lisa, I'm assuming you review all these documents, or don't, isn't that standard?
Meyer Henry.
Actually, Todd Meyer and Henry did.
Thank you.
So
TJ.
in my legal contract, I don't do this work, and we retain it outside of my services. So the Meyer Henry Law Firm reviewed it and approved it.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay, anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, have they moved any dirt yet? No?
No, we're still reviewing the grading plans. And
Okay.
then they're gonna resubmit preliminary plans as well.
Okay.
So no permits have been issued from the city.
Okay, all right.
So Tammy, you mentioned the grading plan a couple of different times. What seems to be the holdup there? What are we not liking?
Our existing lift station, they're building that up. They're building up the ground around it quite a bit. And so they're kind of proposing that they put our lift station into a bowl, which is not going to work. They need to relocate the lift station first. So we're working through that.
Could that lift station be raised or not? I
No.
don't know the mechanics of it.
No, and it needs to be moved anyway because it's in the middle of their development. So,
Yeah. All right.
Okay, the VFW raffle. Anyone have any concerns about the raffle?
Yeah, both of them. The next two items, the VFW raffle and the fire department raffle. As always, if the council is opposed to either of them, you need to make a motion or a resolution.
No.
The development agreement?
No.
I thought we did.
No, we didn't.
Motion.
A motion, a second? Okay.
Yeah, motion, a
Oh,
second, and then
okay.
comments.
Good, you gotta keep track of me. Okay. All right, thank you, appreciate that. All in favor? Opposed? All right, now we did. Okay.
So if the council is opposed to either one of these raffles, you need to have a resolution in opposition too. And since I didn't draft one,
I think you're good to go. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, you're good to go. And thank you for coming today. Thank you for doing the Loyalty Day Parade. That's always a great event. Lots of people turn out for that. All right. right, going to the insurance renewal on page 60.
You have the Metro thing in there? Or not?
It was the MidStar?
No, the MC to LC to.
Couple items down.
I think we're not there yet. We're on the bottom of D, D4. Hey, Casey.
Hello. Now, this is everybody's favorite.
Yeah.
I know.
Always is.
Okay, yeah, so we got the renewal in. That's not great by any means, 22.71% increase. That's one of our worst ones we've had definitely in the last 17 years, for sure. One of the reasons, or some of the reasons, I don't know what information you guys have. Do they have this? Okay, I'll kind of go through it, how they, so they have a base rate change in the state of South Dakota, which is where we sit right now with this group, it's size 2 to 50, that's your employee size. And so on that alone, that's a 5% increase, so anybody in the state that has that, that's their base rate change. And then from there, they're gonna add or subtract risk level, which is basically our claims. Well, 12.55% is the highest that can go. So they maxed us out on our claims history this last year. We were significantly higher than we've been in the last, really for the most part of this group. This group usually runs $650,000 to $800,000 in claims a year is pretty standard. I mean, for this group, it doesn't deviate a whole lot. This year we were 1.1 million. So we saw a significant increase there, so that results in that risk level being maxed out. Demographics was 4.68. What's that? That's your age of the group, or the males versus females, families versus singles. And I'm guessing that's probably just age related on that. We got a little older, which happens. And then from there, nothing else really affected our group. Family composition went down, so we probably added some families there that helps. We didn't have anything on group size adjustment, and our PPO network was 0.23%. So nothing significant there, but nonetheless a 22% increase. So we're out as of April 1st. We received the renewal. We get them 90 days in advance of the actual renewal date, which is July 1st. I sent the renewal to Brian on the 2nd. I also sent quoting documents on the 2nd, and then again on the 8th for different carriers. And so we're waiting. I know the apps were out. I think they're mostly completed from what I understand. Two more that we're waiting for updates. Yep. So all the, what we've done is we've sent groups, or we've sent documentation for the 2 health plans, the Sanford and Avera. And then also we have, there's a carrier out of Minnesota called Health Partners that does have both hospitals in the network. So we're trying to work with them. They weren't thrilled with our claims history. So we, tried to sweet talk them as much as we could. They're going to look at it. It's no guarantee that they'll give us a rate based on that, but hopefully providing the applications will help. And then, like I said, we got Avera, Sanford, United Healthcare. I never know what's going on with them. So we'll see what we can do. We're going to give them the information and see what happens. So that would give us both hospital systems, which I know is a big thing with the group. So,
Casey, what is the renewal premium then at the 22% increase?
well, I have the monthly premium would go to, as of today, $73,782.
A month?
Correct. I don't have your current monthly premium, but I'm guessing it's got to be somewhere in that 50, 58, yeah.
Casey, are you looking at other plans from Wellmark too to actually change
Yeah,
the
so
plan
if we,
type?
yep, so if we change within the Wellmark family, it's going to put us into what they call their mid-size market, which I know, Jack, you weren't here last year. That's kind of we're in a grandfathered small group plan. And so basically, we've been able to stay away from any type of the Affordable Care Act plans, and so we've got a lower out-of-pocket than what they have in the Affordable Care Act. It's been a really a good deal for us over the years. Probably getting to be that time where we need to do a change if we're going to stay within that Wellmark family. But we do have alternates that's going to bump us up into what they call their mid-size market, which is basically 50 and more. Not a big deal. It'll give us some flexibility too. If we do that, it'll give us the opportunity to maybe offer multiple plans if that ever comes into play, things like that. So I do have alternates for that, and we'll take a look at those. And I know Brian has got those too.
It wasn't there the availability to pick up some extra perks too, like preventative services, if I remember from last year?
No, that's a great point. Yeah, so you're going to, they have the preventative services are covered at 100%. So annual physicals, mammogram, pap smear, like that type of thing. Those things are all covered at 100% with those new plans, correct?
So just a quick note, I mean, the math on that 73,000 monthly total is 885,000. I mean, it seems like yesterday we were talking about a 500,000 premium, so it's a big jump. I know that in the past, the Avera Sanfords have been pretty aggressive. I know that's not a popular conversation to have. Is there any chance of doing 2 smaller group healthcare plans, one for people that want Avera and one for people that want Sanford? You can't do 2.
No, I wish we could.
2 city plans.
Yeah, we would keep a lot of people happy, but no, we can't. Neither one of those programs would allow that. Avera or Sanford would allow to do the dual option like that. What they're afraid of is they're afraid of adverse selection for one or the other. Hey, we're getting all the sick people and you're not. So, yeah, in a perfect world, that'd be great.
So then what's our next steps?
So, next step is for us to get those applications in, and then we'll submit those to these carriers and wait for a turnaround on rates. So, and hopefully, again, we'll have to figure out plan design. Do we want to keep it identical to what we have today? Do we want to make some tweaks to it? What do we want to do? That'll be the things, but I think most part we'll have to get those rates in and see if they're competitive, if they'll quote them. There's no guarantee that they're going to quote this.
If I remember correctly, I even think last year, didn't we have this discussion where if the council just kind of comes up with like a number and then Brian can go back and they can be innovative and try to figure out what is best for them as long as we can come up with a number like that 880,000 or I don't know, whatever you said. That just seems really high to me, but that's something at council I think can talk later when we get all the numbers in. And then let Brian go back to his team and figure out how to best stretch the dollar, so to speak, right?
Well, that's where we're at. We really can't do much until we get the quotes in. So, like I said, I think we've got all of the apps in. A couple of them have to give us some additional information, but I would anticipate we'll get those tomorrow. I'll ship them off to Casey, and then there's some applications or forms I need to sign, so it should be done this week.
And the D-Day for a decision, last year I think you told us it was
15th of June is when we would want to have everything completed. And they do that. That's so to ensure that if we, whether we stay with Wellmark and we make any changes or whether we go to a new carrier, it allows them time to get all those things implemented, and then everybody has got their cards and their policies and that by that effective date. So
realistically, when's a good time to plan to have you come back to talk to us so that we still have time to, if needed, make changes or look at other options?
Yeah, I'm available anytime you guys need me. I would say once we get the rates, I'll notify Brian of that, and then whenever you guys want me to present or whatever you need, I'm happy to do that in any form. So, but that's what I would say. I would say whenever we get those rates back, and again, that's always a wild card. We hope for the quickest turnaround that we can get. So I wish I could tell you that once we get those apps, it's 2 days, but that's generally not the case.
Do you give these other carriers, 2 or 3 others, do they have a deadline when they gotta get their, back to you?
Yeah, well, no, do they have a deadline?
Yeah.
No, we try to give them a deadline, say, hey, we need this as soon as possible, but they don't have, there's nothing set in stone or in writing that says, hey, once we receive your paperwork, that we'll have it turned around in such as, so many days.
No, Casey, what I meant is, are you giving them a deadline, i.e. May 15th?
Oh,
or
absolutely.
whatever?
Yeah, well, we give them, they know what the effective date is for this plan. So your renewal date is July 1st. So we know they've got to have, I think that's what you're asking. Yeah, they definitely have a deadline on that. They know what that date is.
And then, one more question. Do they typically, or will they provide other, ideas as to how to keep that,
Absolutely.
rate down?
Oh, for sure. We'll have more options than you'll probably care to look at, Jack. I mean, really to be.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
okay though.
Yeah. Yep.
Anybody else have any questions? Well, that's kind of like a gut punch. I kind of took the air out of the room. Yeah.
Yeah, well, so I'll tell you, Barb, and so I talked to them about this. Not only, I mean, obviously that's a large, and our claims do reflect a big chunk of that. But I've also, and I talked to hospital plans about this, I talked to Every Care. I think we're gonna see probably, higher claims the next couple of years just based on COVID, is what they're telling me. They expect, due to a lot of people pushing back, things that they were gonna have done, whether it was elective stuff, or that they see that going probably well into 2022. So I think we're gonna see, unfortunately, we may have to be dealing with, hopefully it's not this number, but I think we're gonna see high utilization for the next several years.
So, administration, our staff is aware of this number? Or, they know?
Yeah, I sent out a memo with all of the applications, explaining we've got a 22% increase. And that we'll be looking
Warned.
at other plans.
Okay.
We talked about at the briefing meeting, we do a annual explanation of benefits or wages and benefits breakdown for all of the employees. We're compiling that information. And that shows wages, overtime, all of the benefits, workers' comp, unemployment, health insurance, et cetera. Yeah, in aggregate, like I think I sent out an email to everybody. We can give you that number in an aggregate, but we won't break it down individually, as that's private data. But we can give you an aggregate.
And just for anybody that's watching the video and not knowing what we're talking about, this is giving us a better idea of our total expenditures in comparison to wages and benefits. I think it's an important thing to look at, especially with the news of where the health insurance is going, but we focused a lot on not just the CIP numbers, but our general fund budget projections. And I think it's prudent for us to have a better understanding of this. We've been working hard to make adjustments to wages and get some of those things figured out and balanced, and this will just give us some better intel to make informed decisions.
To Metro Growth Alliance, we need to designate a representative for the reorganization.
Yep, Resolution 821 approves the consolidation of Lakita Makita that have been around for a while. They're reorganizing into one organization, Sioux Metro Growth Alliance. So, like I said, that resolution will approve it, and also included in the packet is the articles of consolidation and the consolidation plan.
So you would like us to make a motion for a representative, or is that already in there?
It's included in there.
It's in there? Okay.
Dennis Olson has been the representative for the city of Brandon to Makita for a while. He's been involved with the consolidation, so at this point in time, it would be appropriate to appoint him as the representative. He's also on the board of directors, the new board of directors. But at such time as we hire a full-time development director, we may make a change.
All right, we're looking for a motion then.
Second.
Motion second to appoint Dennis Olson to the reorganized Sioux Metro Growth Alliance.
Now approve resolution 821.
Okay. Okay, approve resolution 821. Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Make this exciting.
And the next thing is Christina's baby. You poor girl, working on that thing. Going to be fascinating work.
The auditors will be here May 11th through the 13th, so I'm working on getting information off to them after we formally approve the annual report tonight. A couple notes: we received about 1.3 million in federal grants this year. A large majority of that, about 1.1 million, was due to COVID relief funds, which substantially helped our fund balance in the general fund. We will have to have a federal audit, as the trigger for a federal audit is $750,000, so we are over that. So they will be here doing that as well at the same time. I'll just note a couple of things. Like, one thing is the capital assets that we added this in 2020 was a little shy of $15 million. A large majority of that was the core project and Holly Main Dogwood project. And then the last 2 pages of the annual report is what we'll have to publish in the paper, just noting our funds and revenue and expenditures in all of our funds in there. Any specific questions? If not, we just need a motion to approve.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion second to approve the annual report from 2020. Any discussion?
Wish we had a little more time to review this, but, I can't stand against it necessarily, just wish we had a little more time.
If you have any questions after, you're certainly welcome to email or stop in on the specific numbers.
Okay. All right. Got a motion. I don't hear any more discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This is one of those fascinating meetings. Okay. Rushmore project financing.
2 different items here. The first one will be an engagement letter with D.A. Davidson to be our underwriter for the bonds for the Rushmore project. And then the second one would be a resolution authorizing issuance up to $4.6 million for Rushmore Phase 1.
So this has been designed, right?
Rushmore project's happening now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Sorry, Lisa.
No, I was just gonna say, Jack, this would be something else that Meyer Henry would do. I don't do tax bonds and tax instruments.
All right. Entertain a motion so we can have any discussion that you might want to have.
Do I make a motion on both or
2 motions.
Well, I'll make the motion on the engagement letter.
Okay, we got an engagement letter with D.A. Davidson. Any discussion on that? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Now we need a resolution to authorize the issuance of the bonds.
So moved.
A motion is second for 4.6 million in bonds for the Rushmore project. Any discussion?
They've done a lot of work over there, Tammy. Are they ahead, behind, on schedule? Where are we at there?
I would say we're ahead of schedule yet. They got in there pretty fast.
Okay, anything else, council? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. And we've got the work report from Street Department on 140. Then we are moving into the meter replacement project pay app. Tammy or Christina?
This would be pay application 1 for the water meter replacement. They are technically done. This would be for the replacements they did up to April 2nd. And then we'll work on that final pay app this next round. And they are done with the project. Went fairly well. Changed out, I think, shy of 600-700 meters. So phase 2 is done.
How many phases do we have?
I think I have 7 planned out.
Gosh.
This is replacing meters from how far back? I mean, or I should say it differently. How far back are these new meters already been installed on new houses? So like 5 years ago or 10?
The majority are like 15 to 20. We're doing it, you know, an area of town, so some of them might be 5 years old, but we're replacing those, and those are on warranty, so some of them we're getting them back. But we're trying to get an area of town done, so then we can come back every 10 to 15 years and just do that area of town. So we kind of have it scaled out in about 7 areas right now. But once we get into that area, we're changing them out.
Okay. So it's not just specifically a style of meter, it's wholesale meter replacement.
It's a whole, yeah, we're replacing the whole meter in the home.
Yeah, I
We're
know.
replacing
Yeah.
all the meters throughout the community over the
Throughout the
next
community.
6-7 years.
Yeah, regardless of type or when.
Yep.
Yeah, this is year 2.
So for houses that were just recently built in the last 2, 3, 5 years, you're replacing them eventually as well?
If we don't get, if they're in phase 7 and they're built this year, we'll replace it in 7 years. But if the meter's about, you know, I would say if the meter's under 5 years old, we're not replacing it. We are taking those off the list because we'll get back to those when we come back around again.
Okay, so I'm just guessing, what's the purpose of replacing a meter every 7 years?
We're not replacing them every 7. Most of the meters in our town are between 15 and 20 years old.
I understand that.
And as they age, they slow down. So, and actually, the main reason why this started is a lot of the homes are not picking up the meter reading. So we had, I think the year before we started this, we had over 100 meters that would not read. So we had to have staff go in there and change out those meters because they were not picking up that reading. So as they age, that battery life in there dies, and we're not getting a meter reading off of them. So that kind of started it. But an average meter lasts 10 years is what they say, I believe. And the life right now is, the majority is 15 to 20. So they're way past their useful life.
I don't think you're getting what I'm getting at it. For instance, I'll just use myself as an example. My house is not quite 2 years old. In 5 years or 7 years from now, that meter is basically, you're saying, is wore out and needs to be replaced?
No, the issue with it's the batteries in the head of the meter. They die and then they don't transmit. So we replace the head. Now, at this point in time, we're replacing the meter because, like Christina said, a lot of those are 15 plus years old.
Yeah, I get that on the older ones, but
So-
I would think that the new ones that are being installed today are
we have a
totally different type of meter.
We have 7 phases of town right now, but that does not mean we're going to go back and change out phase 1 on year 8. We'll take a year or 2 off, so those meters are at least 10 years old, and then we'll start that phasing process again. We just don't want to get back in the same situation right now that we have 100 plus meters that aren't reading.
Yeah, no, I get that,
And
I
we
get
still
that.
have that in other phases of town that are happening that way, that we have to change out staff level. So we want to get on a system where we're changing them out every 10 to 15 years rather than 15 to 20 right now. So we'll do 7 phases, we'll take a couple of years off, and then we'll start back up again.
You, Raleigh, you have something you want to add?
Main thing is the battery. It's a radio read system, so our guy can drive down the street and it's collecting meter readings from both sides to a laptop. Well, when the battery starts to wear out, the meters are in the basement, they can't always send a signal outside of the house. So when it doesn't read, like she stated, 100 plus in one time of reading, and most of those were in one central area. So that's how phase 1 got figured out. That's where we had the most failures. The battery life is only warranted for 10 years. We've made them last 15 to 16 years on most of them. So there are some that we changed out in 2015, but then what's left of the warranty on the head is coming back to the city. They give that warranty back to us a little bit, so we're not wasting the warranty on it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What did that look like for the homeowners that didn't have a unit that projected the reading? Did they just get free water, or
No.
did
No.
we?
It's estimated until we can get in there, and so we if it's outside of the phasing area, then we get an appointment with city staff to go in there and change that out.
Any more questions on that? Did we already make the motion? Did we make the motion?
Not yet.
I don't think
Okay.
so. I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I guess we had the discussion before the motion. All right. All in unless there's more discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. All right. This is the discharge permit for the wastewater. Nice job, Raleigh, saving us some money. We like that.
Yeah, since we were paying $8,785 a year for our wastewater discharge permit, I think when we first went to the Big Sioux Lift to pump 100% to Sioux Falls, we kept it as a concern, just in case something would happen. After talking with the state, we can still do emergency discharges, and it drops our fee down to $50 a year instead of the $87.50. I got an email today from the state. They have received our application, everything looks good. They'll be sending Brian a letter, and that'll have to be posted in the paper for a couple of weeks, and then they'll send the permit, so.
The water treatment plant proposal, Tammy?
This is a proposal with AE2S for roughly 1.5 million. This includes expanding the water treatment plant, and then it also includes the design of the RO system, which would be bid as a bid alternate. So this is the preliminary design, the final design, and the bidding phase. So it does not include the construction administration part of it.
All right, someone make a motion so we can discuss. Yeah, motion and second to approve it. All right, what discussion do we have?
Yeah, I'll just remind us that, TJ brought up earlier what the residents want, and we had a very impressive survey that had 1,000 plus, I believe, responses. And overwhelmingly, our residents did not want to proceed with the RO, so I really struggle with that piece of it, with that expense of it. I'm totally on board with the treatment plant and building it with the size capacity, so that would be an option down the road, but designing it now, to me, is not something I'm in favor of.
Tammy, correct me if I'm wrong in my recollection. When he was here to discuss this, I believe I asked him specifically if we don't do the additional engineering that to be able to incorporate an RO process, that they would still design the building and the build out of itself to eventually be able to incorporate that into it?
Ben and Kevin Smith are here from AE2S, so maybe we want to have them answer those questions.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, Ben Jolson here with A2S. Yes, that's correct. With or without RO now, the plan was to still design the expansion to accommodate RO regardless if it's built now or in the future. So capacity-wise, it would still be able to accommodate largely that concentrate loss from the RO stream.
A quick refresher on the price tag to design the RO. What's the difference?
Oh, it was roughly 370,000 to 370,000 difference, yep.
You had recommended the RO as our consultant, and the reason, it's been a while, so you gotta refresh my memory.
Yep, we recommended the expansion and RO softening. To add softening, the main reason was to get into similar water quality to surrounding systems and other systems of the size throughout the state, most systems throughout the state. Whether or not they have softening, they have water at that level of hardness. And then the RO over the lime softening was recommended for size in that space that's available at the existing plant and operational complexities. Yep.
I guess one of the reasons I favored going ahead with the design is in order for us to have the ability to have an informed decision on that. We don't know what the final price is going to be. That might change. I mean, we had an estimate on what it was. My trust of estimates, you know, they change. As we see with the core project, they change. And again, if we want to have informed decisions, I think we need the information. And this is the way we get it.
One thing I think, if I remember correctly, if we do the RO, was it like you'd save like 1 or 2 salt bags? Is that what you said, a month? I think so, right, Ben? Is that what you said? I can't remember.
Yeah, the estimate was based on, for those that soften with softener salt, to get down to that same level, it was approximately a bag of salt per month, yep.
Okay, so then really when we get the RO numbers in, that would be something to think about, like if, depending on the cost comparison, is that what you're looking at then, Dave? If that cost with it or without it for the consumer or for the...
Yeah, well, it's that is what is the total cost of the project and what would be the impact if we went with it. You know, I mean, you save some on salt. I think you also question, does hard water have an impact on appliances?
Yeah, definitely. You see more wear with the harder the water is. More wear meaning more buildup, more scaling in the equipment, in faucets, washing machines, really anything that water is flowing through.
Okay.
I guess want to remind council that this was discussed and voted on at a previous meeting to give direction to council to do the proposal that's in front of you. So it's just a formality to approve the agreement.
A motion on the table. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Let's take a roll call. Christina?
Clark? Aye. David?
Aye.
Fish?
Aye.
Jorgensen?
Aye.
Cole?
Aye.
Parliament?
Aye.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen, for coming. Appreciate it. Any new business or anything else to come before the council?
Nothing.
All right, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn at, I've got 7:30. All in favor? Closed? We are done. At least now it's still light out.
I know, isn't that fun? Do we take these blue things home or no? Yeah,
Nope, we'll be here.
yes, please.
No, I got a wedding shower. I'd like to do it. It's fun. Your kids will enjoy it.
That's what I'm thinking.
Maybe we'll give you the members card so you can call more kids.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
And they can hand out beer.
There you go.
That would be fun. I want the cart next to Vicky then. Let's just be like, this is what we do every night to Dad.
Just don't throw them.
We know what beer is. Sure go.
Yeah.